Thank you. Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for being here today. I know it's always tough on the last day of the conference to get up enthusiasm to come to a session, but we've got some very exciting things going on in the industry. The new wholesale. I can't remember how many times I've actually been at a conference where we've been speaking about the new wholesale. And it's always been variations on the same theme, yeah? And in the end, nothing different happens. But for me, 2017 is very different. I think it's a game-changing year because I think the sun is setting on traditional wholesale models. So I think one ignores the signs at one's own peril here, okay? What's happening in the industry? We've really got now, in a serious way, the advent of software-defined networks, network function virtualization, and all of that is being abstracted into the software layer. And as you all know, when you take things into software, pretty much everything becomes possible. And that changes business models, it changes the way people consume or acquire services, and that really rocks the world of the legacy way the business has been run. So the consumerization of wholesale. I love this, and I think we need to say thanks to Mr. Steve Jobs, who, when he changed several industries by launching this, taught us a different way of getting what we need. He changed the music industry, he changed the telephony industry, and now that is coming into play because what we find is that enterprises, and that's going to percolate up through the wholesale business, they're finally going to get to consume services in the way that they've wanted to for a long, long time, i.e. flexible, on-demand services. They want to be able to turn services up or down. They want to consume them for a day, a week, or a year. And depending on what happens in their business, they actually want to be able to say, hey, I don't need that link to Buenos Aires anymore, but I need a new link up in Dubai or Singapore. I need to access a cloud service, and I need to do that for the next month or so because I've got a specific commercial activity that warrants it. Today, that is really quite cumbersome, but technology now makes it possible for us to do this in a flexible, dynamic, fluid, and elastic fashion like never before. So this now really has changed the game for the entire industry. With disruption comes a binary split, the winners and the losers. I personally have sat through meetings with peers in the industry, very recently in fact, and there are those who think, hey, we can be the best at what we've been doing for many, many years, right? We will get scale, we will acquire, we'll be the biggest and the best, and we can keep that going. And there will be others who I believe are more enlightened, will say we've got to go with the change. History is full of examples of people who didn't go with change. Years ago, and that's why I got all this white hair, I knew the CEO of a company called Blockbuster. Great guy, fun guy, Spanish guy. Thought, we got this whole business nailed down, best possible model, got all the market share we need, money keeps dropping into the coffers, we don't need to get into this whole online business. But where are they today? Netflix is there. Netflix is there, it's growing. Blockbuster isn't. In industries closer to home, let's go back 5 years. I bet every one of you, instead of looking at your iPhone or your Samsung, had a BlackBerry. The Crackberries. Couldn't do anything, that little flashing red light that stopped you sleeping at night. Pretty dreadful. Destroyed marriages, relationships, and all personal time. They had a fantastic model, okay? They cornered the market. But then technology came, and they ignored the signs, and they were either naive or arrogant to think that the new technology and demand that at that point was manifesting itself in the consumer market wouldn't move to the professional market. The rest is history. So change is one of those things that you can push back. You can try and blinker yourself to think that it's not going to impact you. But if you do all that, you'd be wrong. You'd be very wrong. So what is a new wholesale model? I hope a lot of you were at Epsilon's launch of Infini, a new platform that we actually launched here in Dubai 2 nights ago. And what this is a platform. As software becomes the key element of driving consumption and the way services are acquired, then you start talking about platforms, the flexibility and ease of use of being able to actually turn up services on your iPhone, or Samsung for that matter. I don't think BlackBerry does it anymore. You can do it on your iPad or your Samsung tab, and you can do it on your PC. You can do it any time of the day or night, and you can do it dynamically. The orchestration makes it all possible. You get analytics like never before. You know what's going on. In the palm of your hand, you can actually see how the service is performing, what the latency is, how you're performing against SLAs, jitter, drop packets, the whole works. You can switch it on, you can switch it up, you can switch it down, you can switch it off. It's what people want. And all of this on a web-based application. Now, this is a bet we've taken. It's an evolution of what we've been doing for years. But more fundamentally, it's what people want. It's what the end user wants. And we get to a rather interesting situation whereby, for years, it was said, the cloud is in the network somewhere. I remember in the early days, people were saying, what's the killer app in cloud? And that left me fairly puzzled. What do you mean killer app? It's anything you want it to be. It should be everything you want it to be. But people will think of it as a box which had to have a killer app like email, or is it something else? But now, it's not so much that the cloud is in the network, it's that the network is in the cloud. And that gives you a totally different view of where the industry is going. And fairly gratifying because, as Andrew knows, I've known Andrew for a long time, I've been a great proponent of cloud. It's been a hard lift when you think back to the early days, but the time is now. And it's happening, and it exists. So what will this do in the marketplace? It will change the balance of power. And what you see is a struggle between the large carriers in the world, and Lord knows, I worked for many years for a large carrier, who are going to have to shift from legacy contracts, legacy services. We all know there are lots of big MPLS networks out there on long contracts. And yet, I've spoken to enterprises who say, I can't deal with this anymore. My business changes every 3 months. I need to be able to change my business model, change the dynamics of that, change my demand for ICT services. And you can't turn a battleship around on a dime. Smaller companies can do that, but large companies can't. And what aggravates the situation is that even those large carriers and ICT companies, for that matter, who want to be able to adopt these new technologies, they've got a problem. And the problem is they've got these immense revenue streams coming from legacy services. As soon as they jump into this new on-demand world, what happens? You will see SD-WAN and DIA solutions, which are much more cost-effective, brackets that means cheaper, used as a mechanism to unhook those large revenue streams. And then for everybody in the industry, it's going to be tough because today you can forecast what's happening because you have a fairly clear visibility of lengths of contract, what the customer's doing. That all gets very difficult when you get into an on-demand world. Again, this favors the smaller, nimbler companies because they are able to adapt more quickly. And that's the challenge. And I think maybe for the very, very first time, we will get a real dynamic between the smaller players who actually adopt and use and develop these platforms with the larger players, and everybody gets to win in that equation. In our case, we've got a very large ecosystem of carriers, over 600 connected to our portal. We're agnostic, so we're not batting for one team versus another. But what we do is present an immense choice, whether you're going port to port, port to cloud, port to IX, or connecting enterprises, for data or voice services, you have it on one menu. And as we go down the road, on that menu, what we will have augmented is boxes for IoT, other applications, security services, all on demand. It's an absolute revolution. And the technology and the software allows us to do it today. So to finish up, before I call the panel to the stage, it's 2017, talking about the future, but the future is here, right now and today. And a wise man once said to me, you know, the future of connectivity is actually in software. And that's an interesting thought to have with regard to the change, and whether you adopt it or not, I think we're well beyond that. We're into the change. And the question is really rate of adoption. So the image I like to use is that all the players in this marketplace are at the top of a big ski jump. You know, the nervous guy who's got the skis looking down. And we've all been pushed off the top. And you have two choices, okay? First choice is to enthusiastically embrace and go for it. Make sure you land on both feet, waving your arms because you've done it. Or you're kicking and screaming and you plop off the end and you've got broken arms and legs and hopefully nothing much more than that. I think, you know, the choice is yours. But I think the choice is also very clear. So, I said the future's here. I'd urge you to come and spend a few minutes at our stand where you can see what the future looks like. But for now, I'm going to bring up the panel for some Q&A, and we'll debate this a bit further. Thank you.